Hey everybody, Father Warner here. I'm in Hong Kong and I must have been truly exhausted because I slept 12 hours through the night and another 3 hours through the afternoon. Now, tomorrow is the 31st of May. I say tomorrow because I record a day before, and it's really the feast of the Visitation of the Blessed Virgin Mary. But I want to continue teaching you the Gospel of Mark. And the Gospel of Mark, which would have been taken up on the 31st on Friday of the 8th week in ordinary time, is a text taken from Mark chapter 11 verses 11 to 26. Now this text has four parts to it. If you artificially break it up, it has Jesus cursing the fig tree. It then has Jesus coming back into the temple of Jerusalem and cleansing it. It has then Jesus's visit to Bethany again, and Peter's observation about the fig tree, and then finally a teaching on forgiveness. Now, when you look at chapter 10, which was yesterday's text, I didn't do it because I was traveling, verses 46 to 52, Jesus encounters Bartimaeus in Jericho, the blind man. And chapter 11, verses 1 to 9, talks of Palm Sunday, Jesus' triumphant entry. So clearly, the text of today begins with Palm Sunday. We know that Jesus is acclaimed by the crowds. He enters Jerusalem, he goes to the temple, he looks all around, and because it is late, so don't impute any other meaning, because it is late, he decides to travel to Bethany. Bethany is where his friends Martha, Mary and Lazarus was. You exit Jerusalem, you go down into the Kidron Valley, you climb over the Mount of Olives, and you are in Bethany. It's not that close, but I'm just giving you the journey. So very clearly we are told that Jesus observes, and I want to say this, he observes the temple just as he's observing the church. You know, there are many people today who, to use the lingo that we used in the 1990s, freak out. Yeah, they freak out when they say, oh, you don't know what's happening in the church. Where's the church going? Relax. Yeah, in the text of today, Jesus will tell you, have faith in God. Have faith in God, I tell you solemnly, because God is in charge of his church. So just to make an initial comment there, don't freak out. Yeah, relax. God is in charge. You and I are not in charge of the church, and Pope Francis is the head of our church. We give him every due respect. All our bishops, our cardinals, we agree to disagree. I think that's the position we should hold, but never name calling people in public. Yeah, sometimes I want to say some things and I bite my lower lip. Give the respect. I remember one of my bishops always saying to me, I won't tell you who, saying, you know, whenever you want to say something, don't play it to the gallery. Come and say it to me privately. Of course, the matter may be that you may go privately also and they don't listen to you, but to unnecessarily bring scandal to the church by unwanted comments on Facebook, on Twitter, it's not called Twitter anymore, but you know, on any social media platforms, is simply playing to the gallery. So I don't think we should do that. So Jesus enters the temple, he observes, and I think he's still observing the church very, very carefully. Now, we are told that on the Monday of Holy Week, the next day, he leaves Bethany and he felt hungry. I think that line, that line has been very clearly mentioned for us to draw our attention to the humanity of Christ. Remember, he is going to really suffer. This is the week that he will suffer. He feels hunger, he feels sadness, he feels pain. He was like us in all things but sin. Now, he sees a fig tree, and this text is very confusing for many people because he sees a fig tree in leaf, yeah, some distance away. And let me finish this thing. He says he went to see if he could find any fruit on it, but when he came up to it, he found nothing but leaves, for it was not the season of figs. And he addressed the fig tree, may no one ever eat fruit from you again. Now, you begin to think straight away, if this is not the fig season, why is Jesus cursing the fig tree? Why would he do something? Here is the compassionate Savior. Now, straight away I want to explain this. You know, in Palestine, it would have been late spring when this happened, and it would not be the season for figs. clearly. So let's make that statement very clear. This is not the season for figs. But Palestinian fig trees, and if you go to Palestine, you'll see that they're all over the place, just like olives. You know, when I was in the Holy Land, I always comment, I say, look at the topography, because what is in the Bible, you see around you. If you think the Bible is a book of, a bunch of fake sayings, look around, look very carefully, observation, yeah? They would have said an apple tree, but Jesus sees a fig tree. So coming back to the fig tree, it's late spring, it's not fig season. But Palestinian fig trees, if they are in leaf, then they are also beginning to be in fruit. And we are told very clearly that from a distance, Jesus sees the fig tree in leaf, which means there would have been tiny fruit, but the starting of fruit, he is hungry and he goes up. So clearly, there is a teaching here. This fig tree should not have been, it's like an advertisement board or an advertisement we see on TV. It says a lot. When you go there, the reality is little. This fig tree was like an advertisement, fooling, not all advertisements fool, but many do, fooling everyone. So when you saw the leaves, you would have thought, hey, there might be some fruit. And Jesus is hungry and he walks across to this tree only to find nothing. And it is for this reason that he curses it. But there's something more. You see, if you were a Jew and you heard of a fig tree, your first association would have been the nation of Israel, because there are several texts, Isaiah 34 verse 4, Jeremiah 24 verse 1 to 8, Hosea chapter 9 verse 10, several texts in the Old Testament that compare or literally give you a comparison between the nation of Israel as the fig tree. So there is another meaning to look for. The nation of Israel has put out leaves, but it has borne no fruit. It's only leaves. And I think that is even the story of many Catholics. We have a lot of leaves, but we are bearing no fruit. We are giving all the wrong signs that we should have had fruit, but there is no fruit. We are only a pretentious people from the outside. And so Jesus curses the fig tree. Woe be upon us if Jesus has to curse us too. Now, I'm going to go very rapidly through the second part, which is the cleansing of the temple. We are told straight away that Jesus is upset. Again, another expression of Jesus's humanity. Yeah, he's driving out those who are selling and buying there. He upsets the tables of the money changers. So he is angry. The feeling of anger running through him, anger enough to upset the tables of the money changers and those selling pigeons. Now, why is Jesus upset? And we are told, my house will be called a house of prayer, will not be turned into a robber's den. So clearly there are two motions to it. There is trading going on, and perhaps even more, enough for Jesus to say, this is not a house of prayer, this is a den of thieves. And this is a very strong statement to say, that the temple, the most holy place for the Jews, was being called a den of thieves. Imagine if somebody turned around, and some do, say the Vatican is a den of thieves. I mean, we would be shocked, but Jesus says that. Principally, what is he drawing to? Not merely the den of thieves, but the fact that this should have been a house of prayer. He says it, my house will be called a house of prayer, meaning to say it is not at present a house of prayer. It's become everything else but a house of prayer. And I say this with sadness, that many of our parishes today have become anything but a house of prayer. We are distracted trying to please our congregants with everything under the sun. I always say we should have social programs in the parish, but when social programs in the parish take precedence over religious programs, we seem to have, having something for the youth, having something for the elderly, having something for the married couples. And many of them are not prayer driven, they are activity driven. And this is the tragedy. No one's saying don't cater to various sections of the parish. And this pressure very often comes from our parishioners who want to see what they call an active parish. Spiritually dead, socially active. And this is a grave mistake. Now, Jesus, we are told, is back on his way to Bethany, and Peter sees the fig tree withered to its roots. And he says to Jesus, "Look, Rabbi," he says, "the fig tree that you cursed has withered away. So Israel has withered away." God's words are true. Yeah, I have read much about Sodom and Gomorrah. Sodom and Gomorrah is true. Don't just dismiss. I've been reading the book of Genesis and looking at it with a different light. These are patriarchal narratives in the Old Testament, but at the core is God's truth. And Jesus, looking at the panic in Peter's eyes, because he also understood that Jesus cursed Israel, perhaps, cursed the idea of what Israel had become. He says, have faith in God. And that's what I want to say to you. Have faith in God. Don't just panic every time someone sends you some silliness on WhatsApp or an email about the Catholic Church. And don't feed into it, because, you know, very often, whether you're on the right or the left or the center, you feed the demon that you like. Yeah, if you're on the right, then you feed all the rubbish that comes with regard to those spewing out right-wing beliefs. And I don't want to say anything more, because, you know, there are some people who are my viewers who really, I feel a little sad whether you're on the left or the right. And I'm not just saying about the right, I'm talking about the left. Yeah, I think virtue lies in the center. Do your research. Just don't feed anything that comes to you. And I'm not saying that there aren't things that we need to rectify. There are plenty of things that we need to rectify. I think the biggest problem right now is we are speaking with two voices in the church. It's a very ambivalent church, leaving a lot of people confused. Someone once said to me, "Yes, Father, you always speak in favor of Pope Francis. You speak of his heart for mercy, but what about his heart for justice?" And I agree with that statement. So Jesus very clearly says, have faith in God. If you have faith, you know, and in this context he says, have faith in God. If anyone says to this mountain, get up and throw yourself into the sea, with no hesitation in his heart, but believing what he says, it will happen. So have faith that God is in charge of his church. Please don't misread this text in any other context. Look at it in context. But in asking us to have faith, Jesus says, I tell you therefore, everything that you ask and pray for, believe that you already have it. He says, yes, ask in faith, pray in faith, but he also asks us to stand in prayer, forgiving whatever anybody has against you, whatever you have against anybody, so that your Father may forgive your failings too. Forgiveness is a very integral part. You know, I was talking to, I was a little upset 2 days ago, and I was talking to the Cardinal, and he said to me, he said, but Warner, you must forgive. I know in that moment, I myself felt even more angry, but he is right. Yeah, sometimes we are hurt, and I like to, you know, I don't want to present myself always as a perfect person. I was very upset, I was very angry. I you know, really expressed and vented it, perhaps a little too much. And he said, but you must forgive. At that moment, I didn't regard his statement, but he's right. Christ is right. As difficult as it is, we all go through this anger, and we need to forgive if we need to go ahead. So pray for me that I may forgive, and I pray for you that many of you who are watching too may have unforgiveness in your heart. We can't look at one side of the church and not look at us. We also have to look at our own hearts, our own lives. Bye from Hong Kong, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow again. God bless you, and have a happy feast of the presentation tomorrow. Bye, everybody. Don't forget to like, share, and also comment on this video.